This is really cool. Isn't that cool? This is my favorite one. You know, I've mentioned this before, but I'm gonna mention it again because we do that. But nostalgia is just kind of futile because I'm sure that at any given point in time, I could be sitting in a chair doing exactly what I'm doing right now, just listening to a piece of music, or I don't know, just sitting in a fucking chair thinking about shit. You know, it's reality. It's not really that deep, but it's just kind of stupid to be like mourning that from some other time and some other place. And I've always had a fuck ton of empathy, so like I'm always imagining what it's like to be other people living in other time periods and with other identities and other circumstances and shit. So I just find it really interesting that people are just nostalgic now. Like they've just given up. They're like, fuck everything now. I'm just gonna pretend that it's another era while I stare at my phone until I die. You know? Like that's really depressing. But I'm sure it probably seems like I'm doing that with my music selection and just the way that I approach things. But I think it's just a state of mind. I'm not really taken in by the shit that the world is doing. Like during the 90s, I was just kind of analyzing it because I wasn't old enough to actually do anything with the culture, you know? So it kind of figures that I would spend my 30s living out my childhood and my, early adolescence because I don't know, my timing is like totally screwed up. I'm in a bunch of different time zones in my head, and I think that's okay, you know? PTSD is usually what people call that. But I think that PTSD is kind of like the little gateway into other types of mental illness. Like if you can understand PTSD, then you really can understand all these other aspects of illness. Like who's to say it's an illness? Just because you're not in the current reality, but they're controlling the current reality and they're controlling the past reality. And the whole purpose of that is to control the future reality, okay? That's also not that deep. People act like it is because Orwell wrote about it, but it's like, why wouldn't they do that? And yes, I believe that there's a they that's controlling things because that's always going to be the case. Like, whether you're conspiracy minded, whether you're like obsessed with who's running things or the way they're doing it really doesn't matter. It's like you're always going to meet opposing forces that don't have your best interest. That's just a fact, you know? And you're really, really lucky if there are people that do have your best interest that are like minded, or if they're not, they can at least teach you something positive, you know? And you can always get something positive out of every experience. It doesn't matter how terrible it is if you look at it right, you know? But yeah. You know, it just seems like people are always escaping. But my mind, like, is an escape from reality. And so I guess that's why I know that, like, all this stuff is bullshit. You know? Because, like, I'm already in this other headspace, and they stigmatize that and say that's wrong. That I'm supposed to believe all the lies that I'm told on television. I'm supposed to think that the education system isn't lying to me. And it's not about me, it's about controlling everybody. Okay? I'm just a fucking minion. I'm just a fucking, what do you call it? Microcosm or whatever. The lighting? You think that the lighting would be better? I noticed that when I was trying to film in the car, like, I had the lights on, but it still wasn't working the way that I was hoping for. That's interesting. I got it on the night vision. But yeah. The audio really wasn't that good either, but I guess that's why the camera wasn't very expensive. But that's cool. We'll figure it out later. I really need to go to the grocery store. I don't want to though. I'm dreading it. I literally didn't start doing anything until like maybe an hour ago, and then I just started rigorously cleaning. But that's okay. As long as I'm productive eventually, you know, that's still quite an accomplishment. Especially considering the fact that on my days off, that's when I accomplish the least. So I'll do stuff when I get home. Sometimes I'll do stuff before I go to work. But if I have a day off, you'd think that I would do a lot, but I just kind of lay around, you know? I kind of want to hang out with them, make sure they didn't kill each other. I'm pretty sure that this cat pissed on one of my posters, which makes sense because I'm sure that's what the world wants to do. So maybe he was just trying to, you know, give me a sign. You know, this is what the world thinks of you. I get it. I'm sure they do. But that's exactly how I feel about them too, motherfucker.